He caught my hickey on my neck the morning after my one-night stand from the club. Now I am divorced. I sometimes wonder why marriages get ruined by useless and small things. I mean, why get married if you're going to be insecure and get angry over small things? Even though I regret ever going to that party because it ruined a good and loving thing I had in my life. It took away the only person who had shown me nothing but true love. I would sometimes think to myself how I got here, in the position that I am in right now. I am left with nothing but regrets and sorrows. So my husband Moses, male 52, and I, female 45, first met in Ibiza in Spain on my 40th birthday celebration. My friends had asked me to let loose a little because I had been cooped up with work and barely enjoying my time. My husband was the host of the event that was happening in Ibiza, and it was a blast. I enjoyed every moment of it. I felt young and alive again. We started dating after 3 months of getting to know each other, and I was falling hard for him to a point that it looked dangerous because I would have a bad day and be in a bad mood if he didn't talk to me for like an hour. I think I was obsessed, but no, I wasn't. I was just feeling the guy on a deeper level that it was sometimes scary. I would think, what if he leaves me someday and finds someone else better, who would be on his level, and I would be left alone to pick up the broken pieces of my fragile heart. 7 months later, he proposed. Our relationship was ecstatic. He made sure to always make me feel special in every way. You know when someone makes you feel like you are the only important thing in his life, like you are the apple of their eyes? Well, that was what Moses made me feel. He was not ashamed or scared to show off his woman to his either friends or colleagues. He made sure to always make time for me. Even if he was busy or he would be hosting an event somewhere, he took me with him. I was the happiest and special woman on earth. Some of my friends had started distancing themselves from me. I didn't understand why they were not happy with my relationship with Moses. It really puzzled me because it was not like I had taken someone's boyfriend or crush and I had broken a girl's code. They were just not happy that I had finally found love and happiness. Some friends that we hang around with would surprise you sometimes. So Moses proposed and we got married 2 months later. Well, I had wanted a small and intimate wedding, but the guy had so many relatives, colleagues, and friends. So it was kind of a big wedding, but nonetheless it was a great success and we were both happy. Our families were happy. Moses was the guy of a guy that most girls fantasize or dream to have in their lives, and I had that. We were so much happy and so much in love until we were not. Moses started distancing himself to a point that even if he was hosting an event, he was no longer going with me as we used to. As time went on, Moses had started being the boring person. I couldn't understand what was going on with him because if I would try and address the issue, he would just make an excuse about being under pressure at work. He was no longer spending much time at home. It was like I had become his housemate because in the morning we would both go to work. Well, more like he would go to work very early in the morning, then I would be left behind and go around 8. And when it was time to knock off, I would be in the house earlier than him as he had recently started coming back home late at night. My husband Moses was a good man, but he was also boring. Well, he had started being a very serious and boring person, 6 months after our wedding. If he was free and not working, he would either go to friends or watch TV or play video games and invite his friends over. He was not giving me his time and attention anymore. The thought of him cheating on me and finding someone better than me came across my mind, but I would put the thoughts away and console myself by convincing my heart that Moses loved me enough and a lot for him to just cheat on me. I thought he was going to change, you know. I had faith in our relationship and marriage. The change he made was very huge to a point that he never wanted to go out and explore new things with me like we used to anymore. And he never made me feel like I was the center of his universe. It was a lot and it was hurting me a lot. I couldn't even address the issue that we were facing anymore because I knew what his excuse would be, so it was no use trying to find the cause or the root of our problems. Time went by and his ongoing and unending trips got to me and it affected our relationship. And even our intimate moments were no longer the same. You know the pain of being an intimacy addict, but your partner is nowhere to be found and you are forced to help yourself at times. I got tired of helping myself. I needed my man, but he was not there. Even when he was around, he was always tired. We would go for just 1 round and that was it. He was sexually making me hungry and I didn't want to go and seek it outside our relationship, but I missed the intimacy, the touches, kissing and all that. I didn't want it to end with me going outside our relationship and committing something that would jeopardize my relationship with Moses. I had tried so many times to seduce Moses, but he was just not giving in. I remember one day when he was coming from Africa, when he had gone with his work, I prepared him a very nice dinner and prepared myself to give him a mind-blowing welcome home. I tried making him look at the sexy number that I was wearing, but the dude just slept. Yes, I loved and still love Moses a lot, but sometimes love alone is just not good enough. Love needs attention, time, and perseverance, and to be sure that you are both in it. Imagine being in love or staying in love with someone hoping that they would change their bad behavior and would eventually give you the attention that you need. So you end up being patient and decide to pull up with the bullshit asterisk that your partner is doing. Some end up losing themselves while doing that, and I refused to lose myself while waiting for Moses to change. I decided to also change and go back to my old self that was stress-free, carefree, and lived her life like it's the last day. I had told myself that I would start by going to do some shopping. After I had finished with shopping, I would go on solo dates and maybe visit nightclubs just to unwind and let loose a little. I still remember the night like it was yesterday. The music was pulsating, the lights were flashing, and the crowd was electric. I was dancing with my friends, letting loose and having the time of my life. That's when I saw him, tall, dark, and handsome, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through me. We locked eyes, and I knew I was in trouble. We danced together, our bodies swaying to the rhythm, our hands touching and our lips grazing. The next thing I knew, we were making out in the corner of the club, our passion igniting like a wildfire. We exchanged numbers, and before I knew it, we were sneaking out of the club hand in hand, ready to take on the night. The memories of that night are still etched in my mind. The way he held me, the way he kissed me, the way he made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. It was a night I would never forget, a night that would change my life forever. The next morning, I woke up in his arms feeling like a queen. We made love again, slow and gentle this time, our bodies entwined like we were one. As we lay there, basking in the afterglow, he noticed something on my neck, a small purplish mark, a hickey from our passionate encounter the night before. He smiled, his eyes gleaming with pride, and whispered, "You're mine now." I blushed, feeling a flutter in my chest. Little did I know that moment would be the beginning of the end of my marriage. We were in our moment, and it was great. The guy explored my whole body like he was exploring his favorite country. He was like a drug in my body. My body was giving in to every touch that he was doing, every sweet word that he was saying to the commands that he was making. The intimate moment that I had with Bruce was on another level. He made sure that I was satisfied with every action that he was taking. The intimate moment was, I don't know how I can put it, but I think it would be magical, because it was truly and unbelievably magical. It was something that I had long desired that my husband had been failing to do the whole time. Imagine going on intimacy hunger for over 3 months because your man is busy making excuses when you try to make him meet your desires and cravings. When I finally had some intimacy with Bruce, I felt like I had some sort of a web in my private area and it had dust. That's how much I had last had such a mind-blowing lovemaking, even though it's from a one-night stand, but it still counts, right? As I got dressed to leave, he walked me to the door, his hand on the small of my back. "I'll call you soon," he whispered, his lips brushing against my ear. I nodded, feeling a thrill run through me. I made my way home, my mind replaying the events of the night before. I couldn't believe what had happened. I was married, for crying out loud. I had a husband, a home, a life. But at that moment, none of that seemed to matter. When I got home, my husband John was in the kitchen making breakfast. He looked up as I walked in, a hint of concern in his eyes. "Hey, where were you last night? You didn't come home until really late." I hesitated, trying to come up with an excuse. "I was out with the girls from work. We went to a movie and then grabbed drinks." John nodded, seemingly accepting my explanation. But as we sat down to eat, I couldn't shake the feeling that he knew something was off. The days that followed were a blur. I went through the motions of my daily routine, but my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't stop thinking about the stranger from the club, wondering when I would see him again. And then one night he called. We met at a hotel downtown, our passion reigniting like a wildfire. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. I was addicted to the rush of adrenaline, the thrill of the forbidden. As the weeks went by, my affair continued, secret meetings and stolen moments whenever we could. Moses and I were growing further apart, the distance between us palpable. One morning, as we were getting ready for work, Moses caught my eye in the mirror. "What's going on, Sarah? You've been distant lately, and I can tell something's wrong." I tried to brush it off, but he saw right through me. "Sarah, I know you're having an affair. I can see it in your eyes." My world came crashing down. I knew I had been living a lie, but I had never intended to hurt Moses. I loved him, or at least I thought I did. Moses's eyes were filled with a deep sadness, a mixture of hurt and betrayal. I couldn't bear to look at him, knowing that I had caused him so much pain. "Who is it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated, unsure of what to say. I didn't want to hurt him any more than I already had. Just someone I met at the club, I replied, trying to downplay the situation. Moses shook his head, his eyes welling up with tears. I thought we had something real, Sarah. I thought we were happy. I felt a pang of guilt, knowing that I had been living a lie. We had been happy once, but I had let my desires and impulses tear us apart. We were happy, Moses, I said, trying to reassure him. But I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Moses nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. I want a divorce, Sarah. I can't keep living like this, wondering when you'll slip up again. I felt a lump form in my throat as I realized the gravity of my actions. I had lost the man I loved, the man I had promised to spend the rest of my life with. The days that followed were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and tears. We divided our belongings, our friends, and our lives. I was left alone, wondering how I had let things go so far. As I looked around my empty apartment, I realized that I had lost more than just my marriage. I had lost myself. I had lost the woman I used to be, the woman who was happy and content with her life. I thought about the stranger from the club, the one who had started it all. I wondered if he was thinking about me, if he knew the destruction he had caused. But deep down, I knew it wasn't his fault. It was mine. I was the one who had made the choices, who had thrown away my marriage and my happiness for a fleeting moment of passion. The months that followed were dark and lonely. I struggled to find meaning in my life, to fill the void that Moses had left. I threw myself into my work, taking on extra projects and responsibilities, but even that couldn't distract me from the pain. He asked how I could cheat with his childhood bully, and if I had known the damage and satisfaction that I had caused just by sleeping with his enemy. I told that I didn't know and I was sorry. He then got really angry and told me that he cannot be under the same roof as me because I have shown that I was untrustworthy, and he didn't know what I would do to him while he was sleeping if I knew how to open my legs for his sworn enemy. I was so heartbroken and shuddered by each and every word that he was uttering to me. Sure, I had done him wrong in the worst way possible, but how could he say such hurtful things to me? I don't even want to mention the part where he called me a body seller and told me that I would murder him someday because I was untrustworthy. Well, those words hit deep, and I don't even think that I would ever move on from them. They tore my heart into small, unfixable pieces. Later on that day, after he had said a lot of hurtful and harsh words, he told me that he wanted nothing to do with me and I should go back and enjoy Bruce's D***** because I am no longer his wife. That was the last straw. I begged him while kicking and crying. I didn't want him to leave me. I was regretting everything that I had done, and I couldn't believe that Bruce would actually send Moses such a video, then post it on TikTok. Imagine going viral for the bad and nasty thing. My reputation and self-dignity was shuttered. Moses left the house and went wherever he went. I was so heartbroken I would cry myself to sleep every day. I lost appetite and even the energy to go on. I felt like my whole world had crushed on me. The only thing that had kept me going and made me able to sleep was a bottle of whiskey and vodka. I didn't want any wine or whatever that wasn't strong. I wanted no one to come and try to see me or feel pity for me. The way I was so depressed and hurt, one would swear I had lost my mind. I stayed indoors and never opened for anyone that was knocking. I was grieving my relationship and it was painful. Up until a few weeks later, I decided to stop feeling sorry for myself. I had thought I had moved on and forgave everyone, but I was fooling myself. So I tried going to the mall to get some air, but as I was still at the mall, I fainted and woke up in the hospital. The doctor told me that I was dehydrated and depressed and referred me to the therapist. My mother was so worried and disappointed in me, and I didn't blame her. So I started therapy, which I'm still attending even today. And I would say that it is helping me a bit, but I don't think I will move on from Moses anytime soon. A few months later, I started seeing the stranger from the club again, hoping that he could fill the emptiness inside me. But he was just a temporary fix, a band-aid on a bullet wound. One night, as we lay in bed together, he turned to me and said, "I have something to tell you." My heart skipped a beat as I wondered what he could possibly say to make things worse. "I'm married," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've been married for 5 years and I have 2 kids." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Why did you lie to me?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. He shrugged, his eyes avoiding mine. "I didn't want to lose you. I wanted to keep seeing you, and I knew if you knew the truth, you would leave me." I got out of bed, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and deception. I felt like I had been living in a dream that had just been shattered. I left him that night knowing that I deserved better. I deserved someone who would love me for who I was, not someone who would lie to me and use me for their own pleasure. As I walked out of the hotel room, I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. I was finally free from the toxic relationships that had been holding me back. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to start over. I was ready to find myself again, to find happiness and love on my own terms. I took a deep breath and stepped out into the unknown. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to start fresh. I started by focusing on myself, taking time to reflect on my actions and my choices. I realized that I had been living in a state of denial, ignoring the signs and symptoms of my unhappy marriage and my unfulfilling life. I started therapy, working through my emotions and my past. I learned to forgive myself and others, and to let go of the guilt and shame that had been holding me back. I started taking care of my physical and mental health, exercising regularly and practicing mindfulness. Slowly but surely, I started to feel like myself again. I started to see the world in a new light, to appreciate the beauty and wonder of life. I started to make new friends, people who supported and encouraged me on my journey. And then one day I met him. His name was Alex, my new man, and he was kind, gentle, and compassionate. He was a listener, a problem solver, and a partner. He was everything that I had been missing in my life. We started dating slowly and cautiously. We took our time getting to know each other, sharing our stories and our dreams. We laughed and cried together, supporting each other through the ups and downs of life. As we sat on the beach watching the sunset on our one-year anniversary, I knew that I had found my soulmate. I knew that I had found the love and happiness that I had been searching for all along. "I love you," I said, turning to Alex with tears in my eyes. "I love you too," he replied, smiling and taking my hand. We sat there in silence, watching the stars twinkle to life in the night sky. We knew that we had a long journey ahead of us, but we were ready. We were ready to face whatever life threw our way, as long as we had each other. We built a life together, Alex and I. We traveled, explored new places, and built a home filled with love and laughter. We supported each other's dreams and goals, and we lifted each other up when the road got rough. I finally found the happiness and fulfillment that I had been searching for all along. I finally found a love that was true, pure, and unconditional. As I looked into Alex's eyes, I knew that I had made the right choice. I knew that I had found my soulmate, my partner, and my best friend. We got married on a beautiful summer day, surrounded by our friends and family. We exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other for the rest of our lives. And as we danced at the reception, I felt like I was floating on air. I felt like I was home, like I had finally found my place in the world. I knew that life would still have its ups and downs, its twists and turns. But I knew that with Alex by my side, I could face anything. We built a life filled with love, laughter, and adventure. We built a life that was ours, a life that we could call our own. And as we sat on the porch holding hands and watching the sunset, I knew that I had finally found my happily ever after. I learned that sometimes it takes a little heartbreak and a lot of courage to find your true love. But it's worth it every step of the way. I learned that true love is patient, kind, and unconditional. It's the kind of love that lifts you up, that supports you, and that makes you feel like you're home. And I learned that sometimes it's okay to take a chance, to take a leap of faith, and to follow your heart. Because sometimes that's where you'll find your true love, your soulmate, and your happily ever after.